Hey, all right. So I got several people asking questions about in the one map assignment for adding and subtracting fractions, part number two, where we don't have common denominators. People getting stuck and trying to figure out how to get a common denominator. This is for some of the other problems, not just number. This is question number six. So most of the other problems in that assignment involve getting common denominators, all of them. And some of the directions say not just to get a common denominator, but requires you to get the least common denominator. So here's a method you can use to find the least common denominator. I'm just going to take the bottom problem off this set. So to find a least common denominator, I mean, there's lots of different things that you might do. This is not the only approach, but here's one approach. So if I look at these two fractions, I got 7/4 subtract 6/5, and I can see that they do not have common denominators. Right. So if I'm not sure what should I use as the least common denominator for 4 and 5, then and maybe you can figure it out for 4 and 5, but for other fractions you can't. You're like, I just don't know my times table is with those numbers. Okay, so we're gonna make a list, make two lists. I'm gonna take the denominator, so I'm gonna start with this red one, counting by 4. Count by 4. Okay, so 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. 28. We don't know exactly how far to go, so I'm just going to go. I ran out of space, so I'm going to stop. Maybe I went too far. Maybe I didn't go far enough. In a minute, we'll get to the next step. We'll find out. And if we need to make it bigger, we can just make the lists longer. So in the next column, I'm going to use the other denominator, which was 5. So I'm just going to count by fives. Count by fives. All right, so 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. Okay, so then I ran out of space, so that is probably going to be plenty. So what I'm looking for, so basically this is times tables, right? I just made a list of all of the fours, like that row of the times tables for fours and a row of the fives. So what I'm looking for is the smallest number that shows up in both lists. So if I'm comparing these lists, I see that 20 shows up in both lists, right? Okay, so think about the red list. In order to get a denominator of 20, that's what the 20 is going to be. I'm going to use that 20 as my common denominator. If I can fit that in here. Yes, I'm going to rewrite the original problem using common denominators. That'll be my first step, and then I'll do the subtraction afterwards. So for the red number, if I am looking down this row, I want to find out what did I need to multiply the original denominator of 4 times what? Okay, well, so I can use this list if I'm not sure what that was. I mean, maybe at 4s we know, but maybe for a different problem you don't, I don't know, some obscure number you don't know your times table for. So you just count down. So this is 1, 4 times 1, 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 3, 4 times 4, 4 times 5, right? So this was times 5. So in order to make the original problem, which was 7/4, have a denominator of 20, I would need to multiply both the top and the bottom of that fraction times 5. So I already multiplied the bottom times 5. That's how I got this 20. So now I'm going to multiply the top number, 7, multiplied by 5. And that is 35. So I'm going to fit that right in there. Okay, and then looking at the green list, so I already know I'm going to use the common denominator of 20 because that was the number that showed up in both columns. So I changed from this original fraction, 6/5, I changed the denominator from 5 to 20. But how did I do that? Right. Well, I multiplied it by, if I look down this list, I can just count. So this is 5 times 1, 5 times 2, 5 times 3. So this is 5 times 4. Whoops, coming to my pen. This is times 4. So I multiplied the 5 times 4 to get 20. I'm going to have to multiply the top number times 4 is supposed to be a times dot. It looks a little more like a subtraction. Okay, so on the top, I need to multiply 6 times 4, and that is going to be 24. Okay, so I got this problem. It's like so much stuff crammed in there. Let's see if we can pull this down here. Come on. There we go. Okay, that's maybe a little bit easier to read. Okay, so the original problem was to subtract, and so I still need to subtract now that I have a common denominator. Wait, come on. We're trying to write an equal sign. Okay, so the denominator is going to remain unchanged. That'll still be 20, and then I got to subtract the numerators. 35 minus 24 is it's 11, right? Okay, so this is my final answer. The question asked me, we scroll up, I'm pretty sure I got the directions. The directions were to add or subtract. That's part of the problem with subtracting. So what I would type in there is 11/20ths. All right, so there we go. It's a method you can use to find a least common denominator.